Living in a dementia unit is one of the most challenging situations that you can find yourself in, not just the curtailed freedoms, but also the complete lack of privacy. And dementia residents used to say often to me, oh, well, we just have to make the best of a bad situation. They were remarkably resilient and tolerant, so much to put up with. I mean, everything's public morning to night, except of course cares with showering and dressing. Aside from that, it's pretty much a door open policy because there's no locks on the bedrooms for dementia residents. It's open door. So if people come along and want to come into your bedroom, like the wanderers, they just will, whether you want them to come in or not. So there's no privacy. You can't lock your door or shut your door and hope that no one will come in. They just will. And if you've got the personality to not want to put up with that, that's why actually aggression happens a lot of the time in dementia units, because you're lying on your bed trying to sleep and then a wanderer comes in. And if you've got a fairly feisty personality, chances are you might just sort of lash out at them. And then unfortunately what can happen is that you can get medicated because of that, even though it's not really your fault because someone else has come into your room. So these are just the things that we have to be aware of in terms of what people have to put up with in a dementia facility. It's so phenomenal living there and, you know, having no privacy at all practically. I mean, some people don't mind it. Some people like socializing with a lot of people. They like living with a lot of people. They're, you know, gregarious and outgoing and they like a crowd around them. But some people are very quiet and private and they don't like that. They'd much rather have their own privacy. So for those people in particular, it's extremely difficult. But what happens actually is in time, as the person's confidence builds in the dementia unit, they can start to become, actually, interestingly enough, quite feisty and opinionated. And it's sort of like the teenage years, if you like. When you first start working with these people, you find that they're often, well, I found that they were all pretty much shut down, shut off and depressed. Many, you know, were on plenty of medication, but all of this changed over the years I was working at the dementia units. And once the person became more alert and intellectually active, more engaged, focused, concentrating, then with that, the depression lifted, the anxiety settled, and they were able to bring their confidence back. And with confidence, of course, comes challenges, actually. And they did challenge me quite a lot, these dementia residents. Like, I'd make quite a bit of effort each week to come up with interesting topics for the workshops, that being the big effort. And then, of course, being able to deliver that. But if they didn't find it interesting, they'd say, look, before we do the workshop, we want to know the topic. So I'd say what the topic was. Then if they didn't like it, no, we don't want that rubbish. No, we want something else. So the whole week's work would go to naught if I couldn't think of another angle to come from with it. Because the thing is, unless they were interested, no point doing the workshop. Especially the key members who were the vocal ones. You really did need those residents that were astute and alert and vocal to be on board, because they rallied around the other residents and motivated the other residents. And if you didn't get them on board, then really the workshop wouldn't go anywhere. So I did have to garner the interest of the residents. If they didn't like it, they wouldn't listen and they wouldn't partake. Also, with dementia residents in their own room, sometimes I'd work with them in their room, and there was this one particular woman who said, you know, well, you'll have to make it interesting, otherwise I won't do it. She said, I'm lying down, and when you find a topic that's interesting, then I'll get up for it. Otherwise, you know, I'll poke my head up if something's going on that I don't like. Otherwise, I'm going to sleep unless you can come up with something interesting enough for me to be attentive with. So again, I had to make sure it was interesting. And because I did make that effort, I really did try hard on that one to come up with angles that really did interest them, come what may, then it was a valuable time. Now, the topics initially when I was working at this unit, I had to come up with all the information, workshop material myself, which was a big task. But towards the end of my time at the unit, the smart TV came on board. Benefits and downside. The benefit being that there's subtitles. The dementia residents started to read more with the subtitles. They were engaged. It was interesting. David Attenborough they loved. The Crown, karaoke music. The benefits really did outweigh. But they didn't. We never really got back to the depth of thinking that we did with the initial workshops, which was all about concentration, focus, confidence building. That was really the basis of the work. And there was no smart TV then. It was just all purely cognitive. And it took a lot of effort for the residents to engage in that. So they made remarkable effort. Once that work was done and consolidated, then just so happened that the smart TV came on board. And it was good for them because they had that entertainment, the outside-in experience, and they weren't so cut off from the world. So, yes, when the programs on the smart TV are organised and programmed so that they are of interest to the residents and of value for them, like the David Attenborough and the Crown, it's no good if just, the TV's on and it just drones on and nobody's paying any attention to whether the residents like it or not. It needs to be geared to them and they need to be asked what it is they would like and give them an option, not just to assume that they'll like it just because you like it. You've got to really ask them and give them options, explain what the options are in detail, and then ask the group what they would like to listen to, and then on the basis of the majority vote, play that. That's how I used to work it. And when the residents could see that it was a fair situation where the majority were interested to want to look at the program, they would go along with that. They wouldn't mind. Whereas if it was just only one or two people that wanted to view it and they weren't interested, they'd pipe up and they'd say, no, that's not fair. It has to be the majority here. We don't want that. And so we'd have to come up with something else. So, the consensus ruled. So it was really quite a diplomatic, democratic setup. Fairness, justice, and as they said, whatever's fair will go along with it, which is fair enough, and that's why it did work out, and it was a successful program as a result. So I've written in depth on these topics in these two books, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit and The Resident's Rise from a Dementia Unit. This one is everything you need to know for a family member going into a dementia unit. So much that needs to be known. So read this if you can well before the person goes into the unit, and the second book for when someone is in the unit and all the issues that may well come up that you need to attend to. Both of these books are on Amazon and my website, pietavalentine.com. Thank you for your looks and your likes and all your comments. I so appreciate it. Thank you.